first speaker is Hannah Brzezinski, and she's going to be speaking this morning on Not All Great Minds Think Alike, Ending the Stigma Against Autism.
Autism. When you hear that word, what do you think? If you are like most of our culture, you probably associate autism with a person who's emotionally distant and socially inept, but brilliant in math and science. You might think of bluntness, restricted interests, an inability to understand humor. You might even see a problem, a disease, a deficiency. You likely do not see someone like me. Though I have a tendency to be blunt, I love figurative and flowery language. Though I've done well in my math and science classes, I also enjoy creative pursuits. Though I sometimes don't realize when someone is being sarcastic, I love to make jokes. Though I can't always identify what someone is feeling, I'm a deeply empathetic person. Though I often feel lost in social interactions, I crave human connection. And though pop culture and science rarely include people like me in their narrative of autism, I've learned to embrace my place on the spectrum. I am autistic. And I'm not alone. There are millions of autistic people around the world belonging to every nation and race. And yet, as far as society has come in terms of autism research and diagnosis, there is still a gaping chasm when it comes to autism understanding and accommodation. But we can change that. Given the different needs and abilities of autistic people in our communities, we must work to develop a society that understands and welcomes different types of people. In this speech, I will first address why we should accommodate autism rather than cure it. Second, explore the ways our society currently fails to accommodate autism's differences. Third, explain why we have a responsibility to bring about change. And finally, give examples of ways we can make our society more accepting and accommodating. Before I begin, I would like to clarify the meaning of some terms I will use throughout this speech. I've already discussed what autism is not. You may now be wondering what autism is. The National Institute of Mental Health defines autism as a neurological and developmental difference that affects how people interact with others, communicate, learn, and behave, characterized by difficulty with social communication and interaction with other people, restricted interests and repetitive behaviors, and sensory differences. The traits of autism manifest in many ways, including difficulty interpreting nonverbal communication, discomfort with eye contact, anxiety from loud noises or being touched, and strong attention to detail, to name a few. As the name suggests, the autism spectrum encompasses a diverse group of people with varying struggles, skills, and strengths. Though many people imagine the spectrum to be linear, like a ruler spanning from less autistic to more autistic, it would be more accurate to compare it to a soundboard. Each slider represents a different characteristic, and each person has a unique mix. It is important to note that while it is generally more polite to use person-first language, as in a person with autism, when referring to someone with a disability or neurological difference, many people within the autism community, myself included, prefer identity-first language, calling ourselves autistic. This is the wording you will hear most often throughout my speech. I will also use the word neurodiversity. When I say neurodiversity, I'm referring to differences in the ways people's brains work. Within neurodiversity, there are the neurotypicals and the neurodivergent. The neurotypicals are those with average or so-called normal brain wiring, and those with autism or other cognitive differences such as ADHD or dyslexia are called neurodivergent. Neurodiversity is a natural and beautiful part of humanity. Unfortunately, not everyone sees it that way. Some people, including many experts, argue that our energy is better spent working for a cure for autism rather than changing society to accommodate autism's differences. However, this search for a cure is a futile pursuit based on a dangerous misconception of autism, that it is a disease to be cured rather than a variation in brain function. Those who advocate for curing autism argue that it will make life much easier and better for autistic people and their families. They point to the limitations and challenges autistic people face and the extra stress and responsibilities put on parents of autistic children, and argue that if there was no autism, these people would have much better lives. Admittedly, many autistic people would have significantly fewer struggles if they could be non-autistic. Nevertheless, curing autism is not the right way to invest our time and efforts. We must not focus solely on finding a cure for autism, neglecting accommodation efforts in the process, because we are not anywhere near success. Doctors Alan Rosenblatt and Paul Carbone, both pediatricians who specialize in autism, admit that understanding the causes of autism has been a major research challenge that as of now still eludes us. Perhaps someday, scientists will make a breakthrough and understand how to make the autistic person non-autistic, how to ensure that no child is born with autism. But what will we do in the meantime? Should we refuse to adapt to accommodate the autistic people in our communities just because at some point in the future, autism may no longer exist? And what impact does this have on autistic individuals? Focusing on removing autism rather than accommodating its differences is extremely harmful to those on the spectrum. Ellen Nottbaum, mother of an autistic child, insists that autism is a tragedy for families only if they allow it to be. And one of the greatest tragedies that can befall a child with autism is to be surrounded by adults who think it's a tragedy. The argument for curing autism is based on the assumption that autism is a disease, a problem. If we allow this to be the prevailing rhetoric, every autistic child will grow up believing something is wrong with him. Every autistic adult will struggle to be independent because those around her are so focused on trying to fix her rather than empowering her to do as much as she is capable of. If we're going to truly love our autistic neighbors, we must understand their needs and make allowances for them. Many of the struggles autistic people face are due to the fact that societal norms are not designed to accommodate their needs and abilities. For example, society's emphasis on eye contact limits the social capabilities of those on the spectrum. Autistic author Brant Hansen writes, "Normal people associate eye contact with listening, so I'll make eye contact to be nice to normal people. But ironically, when I'm making eye contact with you, I'm not thinking about what you're saying. I'm thinking, wow, I hate eye contact." Most people take it for granted that eye contact indicates that someone is listening, that they care. But this is not a universal impression. Many autistic people experience eye contact the way you might experience someone standing too close to you. An intrusion into your personal space. It is uncomfortable, stressful, and distracting to the conversation. And yet, because of society's emphasis on the importance of eye contact, many autistic people find themselves torn between performing expected behaviors to show they're listening and actually listening to what is being said. Just like eye contact, many of the so-called deficiencies of autism are simply differences from what the world expects. In his book Neurotribes, Steve Silberman highlights this point when he says, "By autistic standards, the normal brain is easily distractible, is obsessively social, and suffers from a deficit of attention to detail and routine. Thus, those on the spectrum experience the neurotypical world as relentlessly unpredictable and chaotic, perpetually turned up too loud, and full of people who have little respect for personal space." Autism is defined by the limitations the autistic person has compared to the neurotypical. As Silberman points out, however, if autism were the norm, the neurotypical would be the one described by deficits. Perhaps then, autistic people and neurotypical people are simply different from each other, each having their own strengths and weaknesses that balance the other out. While I will not deny that many autistic people have significant struggles simply because they are autistic, the societal expectations of our neurotypical world add additional struggles that need not be labeled as our own deficiencies. Unfortunately, our world is not equipped to see them as anything but. The history of autism is marked by misconceptions, controversies, and abuses which have left the autism community of today stigmatized and downtrodden. For many years, the leading treatments for autism have caused significantly more harm than good. Applied behavioral analysis therapy, commonly recommended for autistic children, doesn't change an autistic into a neurotypical. It just teaches them to act neurotypical so they won't be punished. And this method has yet to be supplanted by something healthier and widely recognized. Dependent on a system of rewards and punishments, applied behavioral analysis eliminates the symptoms without addressing the root cause. It seeks to remove autistic behaviors without recognition the autistic mind will remain. It teaches the children who are subjected to it that they are not allowed to be autistic, that they must act correctly or they will suffer. These children carry trauma into their adult lives. And yet, there is not a widely used and accepted alternative therapy that helps autistic people learn to participate in society while also respecting their autistic wiring. Clearly, there's been a significant lack of support for autistic people in their personal lives, and the public sphere is not much better. Granted, we have greatly improved from the days when autism was blamed on vaccines and unloving mothers, when autistic individuals were locked in institutions and never seen again, when autism was widely believed to mean that a person would never be capable of anything meaningful. This is indeed something to celebrate. But though autism is more graciously presented today, the popular notion of it is still very inaccurate. The media is fraught with depictions of autism that promote misinformation with little room for truth. For example, the popular and award-winning book, The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime, is celebrated for its autistic protagonist, Christopher, who knows all of the countries of the world and their capitals and every prime number up to 7,057. He relates well to animals but has no understanding of human emotions. Christopher is the stereotypical autistic person. Male, remarkably intelligent, loving math and numbers, not understanding figurative language, and having no empathy or relational skills. His character only perpetuates what the world already thinks of autism, rather than inviting readers to explore the diversity of the autism spectrum. And the author, Mark Haddon, is neurotypical, like nearly every author of a book about autism. The autism community rarely has an opportunity to share our own perspectives, our own stories. Our voices are not heard. Our needs are not heard. If our society is going to be more accommodating of differences, a change must take place. Some may ask if that change is really worth it if autistic individuals make up such a small percentage of the world. If the existing structure works for most people, why change it? Here's the truth. Helping autistic people to thrive will not just help them individually, but will allow them to use their unique abilities for the benefit of society. Due to their different way of thinking, autistic individuals bring new perspectives that enrich the communities they are part of. Autistic professor Daniel Bowman explains, neurodiversity's gifts are ways of being, of approaching our days. They are lenses through which the autistic person sees and feels the world uniquely, lenses that can lead to helpful contributions to culture. In my case, my autistic brain wiring leads me to see storytelling and poetry and teaching and learning and worshiping God in ways that are different from what most people will be accustomed to. The lens through which the autistic person sees the world is unique. This uniqueness, as Professor Bowman explains, leads to new ideas and fresh perspectives, adding variety to the ways our society knows how to address and approach different issues. In addition to unique ideas, autistic individuals also bring unique talents. Common within the autism community are the skills required to succeed in the workforce. I had the pleasure of speaking with Cindy Shabinsky, a professor at Mount St. Joseph University and a special education teacher. She explained that one of the things with a student with autism is that oftentimes they like repetitive tasks, having the same thing to do. So their work ethic is really amazing, and their attention to detail is really amazing as well. The autistic way of approaching the world leads to attention to detail and hard work, which employers value. Thus, if we work to create environments that are not too overwhelming, autistic employees have the potential to contribute greatly to their companies in fields such as engineering, software development, graphic design, and many more. Clearly, autistic individuals have much to offer to the world, but we fall into a dangerous trap when we think of other people only in terms of how they can benefit us. As Christians, we have a duty to love all people and help them to thrive, regardless of their abilities. We see in the Bible that God values all of humanity. From the beginning, He gives humanity a special place in creation. So God created mankind in His own image. In the image of God, He created them. All humans bear the image of God. All humans, regardless of their skills and ability to function independently, have value in the eyes of God. If we are to devote ourselves to God, we must follow His commands and value what He values. All throughout Scripture, God makes it clear that He expects us to love others. Jesus tells His disciples, "Love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another." Jesus demonstrates sacrificial love, stressing the importance of not just loving others when it's convenient or beneficial to us. He commands us to do the same, to put aside our own comfortability to love our neighbor, including our autistic neighbor. We must love and value the autistic people in our communities. We must work to make our society more accepting of differences. To do this, we must first understand autism and the differences of those on the spectrum. The first step is to take the time to be informed about autism and how it affects those around you. Autistic professor Daniel Bowman laments that through pop culture signifiers and tropes, many come to a skewed and sometimes even grotesque understanding of autism. We're seen as the butt of gags, clueless robots incapable of relationship, or smart but inept fools bumbling through the world, leaving a path of social destruction in our wake. These images creep into the popular imagination and negatively impact our lives. Given the many unfair stereotypes of autism circulating throughout our society, it is critical that you take the time to inform yourself. Look to reliable sources for your information. Learn to discern the truth about autism. Keep an open mind and be curious so that you can be more inviting and accepting to the autistic people around you rather than judging them based on an incomplete knowledge of who they are. In order to truly understand the spectrum of autism, it is imperative to recognize that each autistic person you meet will be different. Valerie Gilpeer, whose daughter is autistic, explains that there's a saying in the autistic community: if you've met one autistic person, you've met one autistic person. There's such a range of behaviors and experiences that to generalize in any way is to do a grave disservice. How do we avoid generalizing? We ask questions. We are curious. We listen well. We invite people to share their stories, their experiences, their perspectives. There is no one autistic experience, so ask each autistic person what their autistic experience is. And just as importantly, ask us about more than just autism. Remember that autism is only a part of who we are. Once you come to a better understanding of autism, you'll be equipped to help your autistic neighbors better integrate into the world. All autistic people are unique, which makes it impossible to form a concrete list of every way you can help meet their needs. However, there are enough common experiences within the autism community to offer some suggestions. Tragically, one of the most difficult places for the autistic individual is often in the church. Daniel Bowman explains, among the many things church is, it's a complex, multi-layered social environment, a gauntlet of unspoken rules and expectations requiring vigilant navigation. Coupled with the loud volume of the church lobby and worship services, the social aspects of Sunday morning make them a very stressful environment for many autistic people. So how do we make church more accessible? If your church does not already do so, encourage them to stream services so that autistic churchgoers can still hear the message on weeks they are too overwhelmed to attend in person. Advocate for the service, especially worship, to be sensitive to the heightened senses common in the autistic community, or offer a lower sensory alternative for those who need it. Be mindful of the autistic members of your church and be open to requests they have. Be mindful also in your everyday conversations. When you are interacting with your autistic friends and neighbors, understand their needs and be gracious. Know that autistic people often struggle with eye contact, but that does not mean they're not listening. Know that autistic people can't always pick up on subtle social cues and may misunderstand what you mean. Know that autistic people have heightened senses and may struggle with handshakes, hugs, and other types of physical touch. Know that autistic people have a different way of approaching the world and make adjustments as necessary. And my autistic friends, let us do our best to meet them halfway. Throughout all of history, no significant change was made to any society without the collaborative effort of many people. Now is no different. To my autistic friends, we must not view our neurotypical neighbors as a barrier to our success, but as our fellow humans, our allies in this journey of life. And to my neurotypical friends, we need your help in this struggle for change. Let us join together. Let us view each other as different but necessary parts of the body of Christ. Let us see each other as the beloved image bearers of God. Let us work for our mutual good. Let us unite to form a society that knows and appreciates that not all great minds think alike. Thank you.